regarding to the how we involve more engineers. As you know, Joy to usually say that we have only 20 or 30 sophisticated person who knows security, networks, cryptography, and economics and so on. And so the problem is how we increase the number of well-trained engineers in this world. Do you have any good opinion?
So I actually
way to increase that?
I always disagree with Joey a little bit on this point. I think that there are 20 or 30 people who are interested, but the number of people who are capable is much greater. And I think it's a matter of getting them interested and making it a little bit more maybe cool or fun to work in this space, a little bit more friendly, I think is important. And also just reaching out across borders. I know it's been difficult initially to work with Japan because there's a little bit of a language barrier, but through running courses like this, it's been really amazing to see a room full of 100 people coming together to learn, and how well the students have been doing with the material. It really shows that, hey, the project might return, to be centered in Japan sometime soon if they all, start making core contributions.
Yeah, great. And this time there's a bit BC2 workshop is. I think that the program is great, and my impression that it is too much for three days. We need more days for that program. But I would like to ask you that impression of the level of the engineers who participate at this first workshop.
Oh, it seems like they've been top caliber. I mean, I've been very impressed by how well they've been handling all the material. Really, it is a fast-paced course. The intent is to be a little bit of a sampler so that when they're going later and trying to learn something, they'll look back and they'll go, oh, I kind of heard about this before and I know a little bit about it, or this is a good place to start off from, and I'll look here and I know a little bit of where it goes deeper. It's not meant to, they're not going to go out and now all of a sudden be the top contributor after this course, but they're going to have a really strong foundation to start. But yeah, I've been very pleased with the students who are able to come, and I think it's really fantastic. I think maybe we should have another round of the course soon.
So what program is that? We had 3 scaling Bitcoin workshops, Montreal, Hong Kong, and Milan.
Yep.
But the number of the Japanese presenter is only one, me.
Yep.
And I think that we need more participant or more presenter from Japan. What kind of education or other kind of effort is needed to increase the engineers who can present their technologies at scaling Bitcoin?
Well, so I'll admit, having served on the program committee in the first Scaling Bitcoin, I don't have any way of ensuring any outcome, but I would say that it's really a matter of just having people who are financially supported to be able to do this work. A lot of the people who present at Scaling Bitcoin, they are working for or with companies who allow them to have the time to work on these very academic or open source projects that don't necessarily have a direct line of revenue back for the company, but it's a general goodwill of contributing to the network, kind of like building the internet out in the early days, where people need to put this work out for everyone to standardize and agree on to create a public good. So I think that's the main thing, and the other things will come. I mean, they know you'll make sure that they find out about it, and just generally better communication, I think, will help.
So currently, for example, there's quite small number of Japanese person contribute to the Bitcoin core project.
Yeah.
That the presence of the Japanese engineer is not so much at this time.
Yeah, there was one guy a while back, but he seems to have left early on in the project.
Yeah. But this BC2 workshop is a great first step to increase the number of the Japanese engineers to contribute to Bitcoin core. And so I think that there are many great software engineers in Japan, but I think that average Japanese software engineer cannot imagine what blockchain developer is. Could you explain that real life of the blockchain or Bitcoin engineers in United States or other countries?
So the interesting thing is that there's no company named Bitcoin. It's an open source protocol. It's also not really like Linux, which has a really tightly maintained core circle. It's very open, so it's a lot of online discourse and a lot of reading chat logs and emails and seeing what people are interested in, and then finding projects that are interesting to do or make some tangible impact on the network, working on them, sharing prototypes, discussing trade-offs, simulating, testing. It's a very slow and steady engineering effort, but it does make progress. It can be a little bit frustrating too. Sometimes you're really attached to an idea and someone else disagrees, or sometimes people are really busy working on something because there's such a small number of people, everyone's bandwidth is limited. But I think over time, good contributions do make their way in and the code moves forward quite well.
So is there any difference between the average engineer and the Bitcoin engineers in terms of the requirement?
I think it depends. I think as a Bitcoin engineer, you have to be cognizant of the fact that there's no CEO. So usually you can kind of rely on a company that at some point someone can make the executive decision and say this is the way things are going to be, the direction we're going to take, and that guarantees that you're going to make progress, at least in that direction. It might not be good progress, but progress nonetheless. In Bitcoin, there's no such thing, so every engineer kind of has to be aware that there's going to be disagreements and there's going to be unresolvable technical issues or things that seem like they would be a really good idea to do that make a lot of sense but just aren't going to happen. One example, it's kind of my favorite to pick on, is that the formatting of the code is not standard across the code base, and it would take 10 seconds to do this, but it would also break a lot of contributors' patches because they're all patched on certain formatting. And so the code base is never patched, and so you have new contributors come in every now and then and go, oh, I fixed all the code formatting, and then their first pull request is rejected because they go, well, we're never going to format the code. So there are a lot of funny things like that where they just don't happen because there's no CEO.
So this is one perspective. There's several viewpoint of the quality of the engineer. So writing beautiful code and so communicating with the other person about the problem you told is communicating to the other person is more important in Bitcoin
it is. So sometimes you'll see really genius, talented programmers write really awful code in Bitcoin, and you'll say, why would they write such a program? But then it's because if they were to change it to be actually the right way or the best way, it would be too much of a change, and it would change it for other people on the network, and so things have to kind of stay the way they are in order for it to be consistent. So one example of this that's kind of often brought up is the code for serialization and deserialization of packets across the network is really poor quality and poorly designed. And lots of people would like to fix it, but if you have one little bug in there, the entire Bitcoin network could break entirely. So it stays the same, and when people make a change to it, it's a very small change.
Okay, my opinion for average nationality of Japanese. So nationality, Japanese persons or Japanese engineer has a specialty on the precision engineering. Like Japanese Japanese people produce great watches, great vehicle and so on. And that kind of nature of that precision engineering of the Japanese engineer is can contribute to the enhancement of the Bitcoin Core programmer community.
Yeah, absolutely. I had the wonderful experience when I visited Shenzhen a few years ago to go to a Japanese ball bearing factory.
Oh, great.
And when I was looking at the production line, and it's an end-to-end process, I took off one of the rejects to see what it was like. And it was the smoothest ball bearing I'd ever seen in my life, and that was a really early stage reject. They only got better and better from there. And so I think as one of these networks is being built, focusing on how to decrease not only decrease like the latency, which is important, but the variance in the latency to guarantee that it works a certain way is going to be very important. And so I think having a Japanese perspective on that would be key.
Yeah, this is a good news for the average Japanese engineers. So they can surely contribute to the future of Bitcoin and blockchain. Okay, there are over 100. So I think 120 engineers in this classroom. And what kind of background skill are needed for future blockchain engineers? What is your expectation?
Well, so it's not really a skill, but it's something I'd like to see. Is that I'd like to see more participation from female engineers in Japan. I've heard from Westerner friends that they're very good and high quality, and so I think it would be great to see more participation there. But in general, I think it would be good to have people who have been more involved previously with other open source projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It would be cool to see some of those engineers participate in as well.
Okay. And I'd like to sort of change to this event BC2.
Mm-hmm.
So please explain that what do you teach at this event?
So I was able to teach about a couple different topics. I taught a lesson on the first day and on the last day. On the first day, what I went over was kind of some basics of Bitcoin community in contributing to the open source protocol, as well as the major architecture changes in Bitcoin, kind of like equivalent to the internet's RFC process. So I went over those, and hopefully that will guide the students in making their first contributions and changes to the code, as well as work that they will have to do to change the code base to integrate it with their own platforms inside their company or project. As well as I went over some changes that I've worked on recently for making a much more high performance and low variance cache solution for Bitcoin block processing. So I went through the details of that and described them. I think the students understood and appreciated it. And today, on the last day, I went over some recent research I've been working on that I presented at Stanford University originally, and was able to present it here as well on some smart contracting primitives that you can build into Bitcoin that make it still safe, because you have some problems as smart contracts get too complicated, but allow you to think about things in kind of radically new ways.
Yeah, that's great. I think this is so useful lecture to the Japanese engineers. So how do you feel about this event? So after you're giving a lecture,
Yeah, I mean, I think for me there was a little bit of uncertainty coming in. It's coming to a country that I certainly have friends from, but that I've never been to before, and I don't speak the language, so it's had a little bit of apprehension. But upon meeting the students and seeing how receptive they were and how willing to work to understand they were, I was very impressed and very happy with how the workshop went.
Wait, did you enjoy this workshop?
Yes, very much.
Great.
Hi.
And to enhance future opportunity of this workshop, I think that there are many similar education programs at US universities and other places. For example, in MIT, there was MIT Bitcoin Bootcamp, or Cornell or Stanford has a class for the Bitcoin. And could you explain the current status of these activities in United States?
Yeah, I'll be honest, this has been the most in-depth and hands-on workshop that I've seen run. This was a really high-quality program, and I was very impressed. Compared to what I've seen in the States, I think that this was a lot faster and more targeted towards very serious engineers. So I haven't seen anything this quality in the United States. I went to a few events that I thought were a little bit rough because no one opened up a code editor and started programming in the course. They just kind of talked at a high level about, in theory, if one were to code, what would it look like? This, people got coding, they were working on projects, which was really excellent. And I know that the other ones that have been more university affiliated are more for students. Nice. And so these are people who might need to do a lot more rudimentary learning, whereas here I think it was focused on engineers who are kind of ready to go.
So you said that this BC2 is a more productive one for the engineer.
Yeah.
Okay. And So final thing is I'd like to ask you to provide a message to the further participant of this bootcamp.
You guys did fantastic. Thank you for coming, and I hope to be back soon to visit and see how much progress you've all made.